Hello, welcome to another episode of Backyard Progression with me, Proud and Kenko. This is where I go through my backyard and talk a little bit about the change in seasons, maybe some motivational stuff. It's there's a lot that nature teaches you, and it's amazing to see the progression from week to week that nature is doing and I'm doing. So every week, nature is going to change some things, and I'm going to change some things. And it's pretty obvious which is doing what, but um, and some of it you won't see because within the week I'll probably be affecting some of nature's change, like down trees or other various things. This week's change is quite wild, but we'll get there. So this little creek is doing great. It's a great centerpiece for all of the work that I'm doing. Like, it gives me a path to really follow. Um, it provides a lot of room and traction for the animals that I am trying to make better spaces for. So, overall, it's really interesting to go through these spaces and interact with them and try to make them better for everyone involved. So, it's spring. It's finally feeling like spring. So, we are getting out. I've got good mucking boots finally. So, it's not a pain to work in this area where it's all just like a constant couple inches of mud, if not more. So it's kind of a pain to work in this area, and I've been trying to figure out what the best solution is because of all of this standing water just leads to breeding mosquitoes, which no one wants. So I've got to get through this giant pile of thorn bushes and elderberry, unfortunately. Like, I would love if it was just thorn bushes. That way I could clear cut the whole thing and not be concerned too much. But I love elderberries and they're really good for you. So I'd rather try to save as many of those as possible. Try to like go through and make sure that I'm not doing more harm there. So it creates a little bit of a problem because navigating and making sure you're cutting the right thing isn't always as clear as you'd expect. Also, elderberry, the plant itself, is very fragile. It shatters in a like in if it's bent almost at all. Like, it is not a very durable plant. So all the more reason that I need to be extra careful in that area. So that's exciting. This area is doing stuff. This is filtering down now. Unsure like what I really should be doing there, but at least it's moving. So most of my concern is alleviated, but I'm going to continue trying to figure out how to better route that. And it's spring, so all of this cleaning activity feels really good. It feels good to be outside and just soak in the vitamin D and shake off that seasonal depression because it's starting to get warmer. We had a few summer-like days that, didn't last, and it's still pretty cold at night. But it's pretty safe to shut off the heaters, to really actively say that it's spring. The snow shovel can just about finally go away. I say just about because, like, I look back a couple years ago and it absolutely snowed. So, it might not be out of the woods yet, but haha. um it's absolutely a concern that it could still snow. But I am doing really good. I still need to clear this bit, but been doing a lot of stick removal. There's a lot. It's a lot easier when you're not trudging through snow to actually get it out, especially when you're looking for something to do. So, having the minimizing thoughts of absolutely um, changing the way I think about getting out here has mattered a lot. It's been a lot easier to come out and do things because I realized just how few minutes it is to get out here. It's 6 minutes to get to this point. And that changes a lot. It makes it a lot easier to be out and about and around, um, to really make that trip out and back. And it was so funny. Like, I've been talking about taking a 10-minute walk and after meals and everything. And then there was a podcast about the same concept. Like, it was Katie Bowman's 11 minutes why, or 11 reasons why we should, or something. 11 things why we should get out and walk for 11 minutes. It's, it was really interesting timing. I've been really aggressive in my uh, thoughts on this because it basically reaffirmed everything that I said, where it's good for your body, it reduces all-cause mortality, uh, reduces blood sugar, it can be built in for a way to connect with people and get away from screen time, help your eyes. So good. It's such a wonderful uh, it's such a wonderful way to do this. It's so good for your body. It's a shame that there isn't a better system for more people to actively get into spaces like this. And it's a shame that, like, the system that we have at hand makes it hard for people like me to, like, even rent it out and be like, hey, do you want to run this trail? Like, it's dangerous. There's liability involved. And if someone gets hurt on your property, it's your fault for the most part. So, and there is no part of this that is safe. Like, being in anywhere around uneven ground with sticks and vines and animals, like, it's not gonna be safe. Like, you have to be safe. You have to recognize when you're in trouble and do the smart thing. So it's important to really get out there and really do the thing. But I would like it if people were responsible for their own actions. like it if it were a little harder to sue the average person and a little easier to sue the corporations and government and things. If that's the system we have in place, it's not working. Our whole system needs to be reworked. And it's coming out a lot more as the Orange Man wants to run again, even after all of the criminal nonsense that he did in the position in the first place. It's unreasonable. Like, there's no accountability. And that can be really upsetting for people who really care about accountability and really care that things are happening the way they should be and that people take responsibility for their actions. Because if we can't do that, then yeah, jail makes the most sense. Like, he has made it very clear he is going to commit crimes again. Like, there's no other option for him. Yet we're just supposed to allow him to do that? Like, do you really want the man who's declared bankruptcy multiple times to take that approach to the United States? Uh, um, it's unfortunate. The world's a weird place, and whenever I have these thoughts, I try to zoom back into my little corner of the world and doing the best I can for the animals that I can. And I've been thinking more and more, I really, as much as this space exists, I really want to follow the deer tracks a couple of these days and really make their trails nicer for them. I don't know if that's making it easier for the coyotes to follow them, though. And that's the whole thing. Like, affecting nature is unnatural. Sure. But nature left to its own design has its own issues. And people make this worse as they leave trash and things. And every now and again, you have to pull a trash can out of the creek because people suck. No idea whose trash can that is. It's ours now, I guess. Well, I end up putting that by the fire so I can tease out any metal bits or things that shouldn't be in there. It just got put in, but for now it lives right there. Time travel is weird. You get to talk about what you've done since this moment. But the pond is doing great. I talked a little bit yesterday about how I spent probably a half hour just looking at tadpoles and found out that we have lizards. There are little lizards in here. It warms my heart. Like, I was really infatuated and blown away. I tried to stream it a little bit from my phone, but I don't think it worked very well. So, that was unfortunate. It's a shame having spotty internet and being in the middle of nowhere, but it's kind of a concept. You have to be in the middle of nowhere to have spaces like these. So that's the dichotomy of me as a person, and always has been. That I live here. This is where I live. And it's a mess. There's a lot of life going on in here. And it's just so far away from society, like 15, 20 minutes from a real store or anything. You can even see that the pussy willows back there are at their little tuft stage, but in the week since this point, they've grown into their long tail phase, which a lot of people, I'm not sure if they're familiar with. It's really cool the way they look. It's so good. And it definitely much more resembles cattails. Not cattails the plant, but cat tails. English is weird. Too often I think about all of the contextual things, and I try to be better with affirmations. That's been my goal lately. To not talk negatively about myself or my situation, which is hard. But I live in a nice place. I have nice things. I'm able to broadcast to all of you wonderful people. There's a lot going on in the world that I can't control, that I wouldn't want to control. It'd be nice, but so trying to see my situation and be like, I'm making a difference, I'm making it better. This helped a lot. It hurts at this point to hear people be so down on themselves, especially when they're new at things. It's really hard to get out of that cycle, but it's something you can do. I don't know what to do with this little bit of the creek. It's weird, but aside from ultra building up the other ends of the root structure here, I can't really point it out, but that needed to get cleaned out. But as you'll see, some major things changed here. And that's one of the more interesting aspects of nature, just how impermanent this all is. Like, everything is in flux, everything is changing. It's wild. Even our daffodils haven't sprouted yet, or bloomed yet, really. So, cut to next week. Shazam. So, be a little BRB while I switch videos. And we're back. So, today, it's really nice out. Really feel it. You can see the grass is growing again instead of just existing. The leaves are dissipating, which is kind of an interesting thing to track in and of itself. That the leaf cover is going away on its own due to the natural decomposition and animals eating them and different things. Like, there's natural ways where it's just protecting the grass and all of the little creatures who want to live under the leaf cover. So I have my mucking boots on today, so I have no qualms about getting into the creek. And I think that'd be an interesting video in and of itself, of just walking the creek. I'd like it to be supplemental though, and I feel like I have a lot of ideas for these little supplemental videos. but unsure how or where would be interesting to upload them. Love the bird sounds coming back. All of the birds have been super active. Um, it's been good. Oh, I forgot to mention in the pond the tadpoles are really fat. They're like it's it's unreasonable. They're yay big. Like it's so good. Like I love them. They're all very good. There was one that was so still. It was impressive. Like just hung out suspended in the water, not moving at all. But like just the joy of nature and seeing things like that and seeing how all the little bits that are changing, all the little bits, like the fresh grass coming through these areas, you can kind of see a little bit here and there on where things are growing and starting to change. We have an aggressive bunch of crows today. There's like 4 hanging out. They were so loud and good. It's a shame it doesn't really come through because I'm hearing them, but I don't think you can. Yeah. Darn. Can't turn the volume up much louder anyway. But there's so many good sounds, so many good things going. And I was real depressed in my last video. And it's hard having those moments and times and questioning just what you're doing and why. But so this is a little bit of what I was talking about. The cattails get really long and eventually they drop down. It's super cool. Like, love a good seed pod. Also, breaking off this stick that keeps hitting me on my way out of here. Get out of here. It was broken to begin with, for reference. Sirens in the background. Ignore them. They're fine. So, I went through and cleaned up a bunch of this. Just kind of walked through with clippers and the axe that I sharpened, because um, it's been really nice to work with a sharpened axe. I did my hatchet as a test, and it really made a difference. So, this muck is interesting. It's got a lot of natural gas, I think, in it. And I'm not quite sure what to do with it. But all I can do is try to get it running, I guess. I don't know that I want it running into the creek. So I might just try to fill that up. um, so yeah, it's been good. Still have a bunch of stuff to get out of this location and move it across the creek. But luckily, I have plenty of time, plenty of effort, It's been it's been good. It's been a lot. I've been doing my best to make it work because getting out here and getting through. Oh yeah, I added so much to over here. I forgot to mention or even look, but I worked over here a little bit. So many tracks. It's so good. Forgot to point out the really good possum track that I found. Nice little handprint. So good. Or not possum, raccoon. They're both kind of similar with their hands, but different. Like, it's so good. Like, I love this land. Oh, yeah. You may miss it, but there was a tree that was in the way here that I had to duck under, and I removed that. Same for some of the bits in here. Made it so you can just kind of walk through instead of having to kind of weave through. And there was a large tree, I'll say, that, not a large tree, but maybe a small tree, that was in the creek, kind of like still connected, but still it was making problems for the stream, so fixed it. Also, getting rid of a lot of the excess sticks, finally getting to the point where it's dry enough to haul them away with a wagon on the back of a tractor. So that's been really good, clearing out all these spaces that you don't see. So there were more bits of debris in this area that just aren't there anymore. So that's great. Love that for me. But it's such a pain working with power tools and machinery. I really don't like it. And it's probably better to not rely on machinery, in my opinion. Like, use it when you can, sure. But if it's not bringing joy or not making things better, then maybe don't. Because sometimes it's just easier to cut or spiral or do whatever to our vegetables rather than rely on the little, like, stovetop machines. Some of them are really good. Love a blender. Love, like, very simple objects that just work. Mixers, fantastic. But some of the weird little ones don't work quite well. And it can bring a lot of frustration. Just like a power tool can jam and break and have all these little weird intricacies on how to make it go. Like, anyone who started a lawnmower knows that there's a lot more to it than just, like, mowing the lawn. Because we're not supposed to. Like, it's so funny. Like, our lawn is supposed to grow. It's supposed to have deep roots and really be for the bees. We're supposed to have all these little wildflowers and dandelions and everything, and it just gets chopped down unnecessarily. We have our walkways, we have our little bits. Let the grass grow. And the manual tool for that being a full-size scythe is wild. Like, it's amazing to see them work properly and not in the anime context of swinging around this straight thing, like straight with the hooked bit, right? A real scythe is curvy. Real scythes have curves that you like wrap around your body, and it's got little handles that you like hold on to. So you've got it wrapped around your body, and then you kind of just like work your hips, and like you're just kind of people who are really good at it, phenomenal. They can do a field real quick. But you'd have to let it grow to a certain point to use it, because otherwise it's just not going to work. And also, yes, a scythe would be a horrible weapon to use. It is not. It's unwieldy, for sure. And the the way the blade curves inwards makes it so if you hit someone with it or hit something with it, it's more likely to glance off than it is to pierce. And that's by design. Because you'll accidentally hit trees and things that you don't want to damage. So it's a little gripe, but all the same, it's something that when you interact with the real thing, fantasy gets a little funny. Cause like everyone adores a good scythe in a good anime or like representation. You get a really cool looking death figure with the scythe and everything, and the anime foo of wielding it. So the cattails are, the pussy willows are actually falling into the pond here. So that's their more full form. And it creates some of these pond-side things, as I'm sure animals eat them and fertilize the next range of these trees. So that's how they spread. It's really wild. Because I feel like they're disguising themselves as caterpillars, almost. And it blows my mind that plants know what things look like. There are certain plants that flower into mimicking birds, mimicking insects. Like, it's so wild that that something without a visual aspect that we're aware of can know somewhere in its DNA, like what these things look like, what and how to mimic them. So freaking wild, so good. uh, I'm blown away, honestly, every time I think about that. So I think it's reasonable to say that they're mimicking caterpillars to try to spread their seed a little further. Like, we have a few fuzzy caterpillars that we have the woolly bears. They're so good. um, and we're a lot of farmers and people will take the woolly bear's stripes to mean things about the coming seasons. And I feel like they're interpreting that same concept of nature knowing a little bit more than we know a lot of the time. Because in that regard, we are very dumb when it comes to being aware of our surroundings. We have not passed down any of that kind of stuff. Certain people will get aches and pains in different spots that they've had issues with. I think that's incredibly fascinating, that you can feel the barometric pressure. But coming up to the big reveal of what changed this week in nature. So, y'all know I've been working on this creek for a while and trying to fix some of the flow issues, try to get it to be a little bit more aggressive. But as you can see from last week, this was all flooded out. But now, nature has decided to dam this up. It just, in the last flood, brought so much stone that this is no longer creek. This is now the creek. When this was the side path before. So, I really have to figure out an answer for over here. Also, I saw a piece of tinfoil that I was gonna grab, because that shouldn't be here. Get this out of here. But yeah, now the creek runs just this way. And that was astonishing to engage with. Like, come out one day and the creek has just changed direction. Like, so freaking wild. Also, I mentioned that in the last week that the daffodils hadn't bloomed yet. But now, a week later, look at these little babies. They're so good. So, I hope y'all can bloom into spring. Hope you can have a wonderful rest of your day. Be good to yourself. Get out there, stretch. Try to get a 10-minute walk in today. Even if you can't do multiple, like, it's really good to do it after a meal, or just when, like, Katie Bowman suggested doing it in the morning to shake off sleepiness, or at night to help get into a walking meditation and, like, get out some of the excess energy. So I hope that y'all can walk and do good things. And as I switch over to my end, I thank y'all for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to follow me there. Like, follow, subscribe, whole 9 yards. If you're watching this on Twitch, feel free to check that out. I appreciate all the people here. Feel free to jump over too, because you never know